Let's create a pivotal impact. Let me start by asking you this. Have you ever had a conversation with someone that's super passionate about the subject and you can tell they genuinely care about the topic, but also understand what they're saying? I honestly love conversations like that, as it really adds fuel to my fire as someone who's passionate about connecting industry leaders to the industry to help create a pivotal impact. This is why I'm so pumped on today's episode, as I get to speak with Ben Stiller with National Truck League Insurance Solutions on the impacts him and his company or his family's company are having on the lives of many in the transportation industry. I highly recommend that you learn more about NTL by visiting ntl.ca, but really listen to what Ben has to say about the impact that he as a professional is having, as well as their company is having on the lives of so many in our industry. Well, let's get to it. Hey, Ben, welcome to the Truck Focus podcast. Super stoked for our conversation today. Honestly, for a few things. Obviously, we talked for about half an hour prior to hitting the record button. And I think that just speaks volumes to who you are as a person, because you actually, you care about our industry, but you're energetic about the industry and you understand just the importance of what's going on right now. So yeah, just hyped today to talk obviously about that, talk about who is Ben, but also talking about your family company, the National Truck League. So yeah, just welcome.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you. And shout out to you for doing this podcast and connecting all of us. And I've only known you for like 2 phone calls now, and I feel like it's been a year. You're very you shared just as much care, if not more, about the industry. So super pumped to be here too. And I'm very excited to chat with you on the podcast.
Awesome, man. Yeah, this is huge, and it's just appreciate your time. Obviously, it's a Saturday, so the fact that we're making it happen, it means a lot. So, kind of starting us off, why don't you highlight who is Ben, as well as can you share the backstory, which I think is pretty fascinating, of how you entered the insurance side of transportation industry, as well as a whole the transportation industry.
Okay. Yeah. Who is Ben? Well, I'll just get it out of the way. My name is Ben Stiller, which everybody in the world likes to talk about, is the same name as the guy that was in Dodgeball and Zoolander. So I've gotten that my whole life, no matter where that is. And I've kind of used it to my benefit now just to try to get my name recognized. But I'm a 27-year-old London, Ontario, born and raised man that is an insurance broker now. I've been working with National Truck League for 6.5 years now, and maybe even longer. And the reason I say that is because my dad actually purchased the business in '91 with my grandfather. And then from there, eventually bought my grandfather out. My mom started working there. So they've been there ever since the beginning. Started with a couple of employees, and now the company's around 50. So it's been a really good growth for them. And then as your parents own a business, you are involved kind of just by association the whole time. So personally, I tried to take my own path. You don't want to follow your parents every step because they have a fun looking, successful business. You want to be your own person. So my whole life, I kind of just did normal schooling and everything in London, a normal kid. And then after high school, I did a video production internship. That was following some classes in high school that I got a passion for design and creating stuff. And I was on the school news and all this stuff. So I just had a passion for it. But then when I started working in the industry for real, took the passion out of it. So then I went to college. I took a marketing diploma, and then I went to that stage where I think most kids go to, where you don't know what to do with your life after you've got your diploma or degree. So during college, my parents said, hey, why don't you put some hours in at the business, do some data work or whatever that is. So I just did. That was easy for me to do. And then that slowly transitioned after school to very enjoyable time of my starting of my career. I was talking to clients more, and I'm a pretty chatty person, outgoing person, as you said 30 minutes before we started. And I started talking to clients, and I loved it. And every day was different. Every person you talk to is different. And it was always refreshing. And my parents said, hey, why don't you get your license? And so I still had that worry about following my parents' footsteps. And I was engaged. I was really young, engaged. Me and my wife got married young. And it was time to make money after school and start to think about providing for the family in the future. So I did. And I started selling policies to the trucking industry for a while. And I was definitely just more individually focused on my own personal goals for a while, like in my sales career, not actually paying attention to the people I was talking to in the trucks. I wish I could go back now and with the knowledge and care I have now and have those conversations because they'd probably be so much more rich. But I love the insurance industry, and now I've grown to be more in touch with the transportation industry. And I do realize that it's an extreme blessing and opportunity for me to have my parents that did build this business that I can carry on the legacy for eventually. I loved working in sales, and eventually, yeah, I transitioned to a different role that I'm in now, which is called marketing and business development. But other than that, that's what I would describe myself as for this.
Powerful, man. Yeah, you said a couple of things that, as you can see, like I shake my head a lot, and sometimes I have to like tell myself to stop because get
Bobblehead.
really like, yeah. And you said a couple of things, so I think it's really important to highlight that you mentioned legacy, and I think far too often people go throughout their lives, literally day to day, kind of on autopilot, and you're not
Mm,
like legacy is not a morbid thing. I think a lot of people think, well, I don't want to think about when I'm dead. And I'm
yeah,
like, I want you to think about you enter a room, you interact, you leave. How did you leave that room? And I
yeah,
think in your position where you talked about now versus when you started, you're leaving a very rich legacy within 20 minutes, half an hour, 45 minutes to 10 hours, how much time you spend with that person because you care about the people. And that was one of the
mm,
first things that I noticed. Part of it on content, but then when we had our first phone call, I'm like, do you actually care? Like you're not full of fluff.
good.
And I
I'm
think
glad
that's
I'm
one of
not.
the totally, absolutely. Me too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
good.
me
I know
too.
you
Because
do.
otherwise you're kind of like, oh, that sucks. But I think that's really an important process, especially as a younger leader in a space where there's culture. There's obviously you have like, we're both Caucasian. There's lots of people in our industry that are not. We're both male.
Yeah,
There's lots of people in our industry that are not. So I think
right.
the fact that you really care about people and you can lead with that mindset, I think is important. And you answered something that I wondered was the progression in what you were doing. So starting in data, and then obviously you have school, then you're kind of getting into like, oh, I kind of like the sales team. Okay, I like
Hmm.
dealing with different people to
Hmm.
the involvement now where it sounds like with part of your school in marketing, you're able to use it in your current role here. So
Yeah,
it's really cool too.
for sure. I do. It is actually, I've never been a big fan of school, but when you actually can use some of the stuff you've learned in school for work, it's actually feels kind of good. And
Yeah.
yeah, when you talk about legacy, it's not, I'm not thinking about death at all. I'm thinking like my dad, I have just a crazy amount of respect for, and I think a lot of the trucking industry does too. And I'll go to a trade show and people just know who I am from when I was 5 years old at those conferences as a kid. And I'm so proud to work at the same business as him and with him. And that's what I'm thinking about is just what I'm a second generation of him who's already created this much support for the trucking industry. And I get to carry that on and maybe even grow it one day too.
And I think that's an addictive mindset because when caring, legacy, impact, like those are really powerful words that I think when you just live your life like that, people just will naturally be like, okay, I feel clean when I hang out with Ben. I feel better. I feel motivated. And I think our industry, I think we could both agree, we need way more of that. We need way
Yes.
more just like, why don't we have a motivational speaker at every corner? Like, essentially giving praise to industry and speaking the
Yeah.
truth about professional drivers and the value they
Yes.
offer. So
Yes.
again, those are traits that will carry the second generation and hopefully the third when you have kids too, because again, that I think that's super cool. And my wife, she works for a large corporation, Canadian Tire, and yeah, I was watching. It was yesterday, day before. There's a commercial that they made it to 100 years, and you're like,
Wow.
wow, 100-year-old
Really?
company. Yeah. So, okay, well, you're going to obviously be part of it for the like the time that you're part of it for. And then if you
Yeah.
can get to the third, technically, but I think the third or the fourth, that's a 100-year generation company like
Yeah.
that, or 100-year company. I'm sorry, after 4 generations. That's pretty phenomenal, man. So that's
Yeah.
really
If you
cool to
think
see.
what was 100 years ago, like that is just, we didn't have anything then compared to what we have now, too. Right. So
Yeah.
that's a good point. Whatever you just said, whoever's listening, just listen to that last part again. That was so good what you just said.
It's
I'm
funny.
gonna listen to it.
I'll listen. I always listen to our episodes a couple of times because I'm a self critic, but and then I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I like that they said that. Yeah, okay, but that's cool. So, National Truck League, as a company, Insurance Solutions, can you kind of
Yes.
talk about what's your overarching mission in industry? And yeah, if you want to obviously talk about your website, where do people go, and anything that you want to share about the company itself?
Cool. Yeah. National Truck League, NTL Insurance Solutions. Um, we have one goal that we talk about often with the staff. We try to create a culture with core values and everything that's all focused on supporting and caring for the Canadian trucking industry. So the one thing that we always say we do at National Truck League is we ride shotgun with the trucking industry. Um, and what that means, it could mean a lot of things. And some people don't know what riding shotgun is, so we learned after we said this. But um, just picture us with an owner operator in the driver's seat, and we're beside him, and we're carrying. Is your liability slip there? Is your travel policy there? We're going to answer every question you have. We want to pick up every phone call. It's just a high level of saying we're reliable, we're caring for you, and we're sitting shotgun with you as you're hauling your freight. So that came from a different spot of just where we wanted to spice up our core values to be more transportation oriented slash true support and care for the industry. So we have business goals that we obviously set, but that's not the focus. The focus always comes from the high level of supporting the trucking industry. And we only have one type of customer, and that is the Canadian trucking industry. We have three different departments that we try to create for the trucking industry, which is the commercial department, the accident and sickness department, and the personal department. That is trying to create the one-stop shop approach for the trucking industry so we can ensure the trucks, the drivers, and their personal assets. And so we recognize, there are companies in Canada that have 1,000 units under their authorities. And then there are a lot, we've learning a lot more of these last few years with 10 units that started from a company driver that turned into an owner operator that is an ambitious entrepreneur that knows trucking and he knows he can make more money off it. And then he starts with his own truck and then he gets his buddy to join. And then eventually he's coming around 10 units, which is a fleet. And those companies need the most assistance, whether it's safety practices or just guidance with compliance. Whether they listen, that's the tough part. But our focus is trying to literally support and help those types of companies growing too, so that they can get to fleet status one day. They can be the business owner that they want and growing safely, adding units slowly, surely, but not adding 10 units per year where your safety practices fall out of line. And then the insurance company no longer wants you. We know what the insurance company wants. We know what these drivers want. We're trying to create the solutions that bring those together so that there's never a pause in business for these truck drivers. If there's a trucking company that gets a non-renewal, it's devastating to them. We've had some trucking companies with problems where they're getting a non-renewal like in 2 days, like it came down to the line and there's trucks in the States and we're like preparing them to park their trucks. And that is just, let alone if it's a trucking company, but if that's your business where you have to stop your business all in one day, that's all of your income. And it's a terrible situation. So we're really trying to coach the industry on safety practices and what the insurance companies are coaching to make sure that there's always coverage in place. There's never that chance of having a non-renewal. But the high level of focus is just still, and we keep saying this word about like caring, but we're just trying to bring care to the trucking industry through safety successes. And even if we don't insure all their operations, we want them to just know that you can call us still for advice as well. And some trucking companies will be locked in their commercial insurance policy with like a captive solution, and we won't ever be able to insure them. But we're more than happy, even if they just wanted to bounce some questions off us, that it doesn't matter if we're getting paid. We just want to help support people bring solutions, and we want to make sure that the trucking industry doesn't have interruptions that some of these people that we see face. So yeah, I don't know if I summed it up all in one, but
Powerful. Yeah, man, there's so many wins there. It's awesome. So if you think about a couple of things that you said, and I think the story of an owner operator to grow his fleet, as you mentioned, is very common now over the last,
Yes.
I don't know if it's necessarily 10 years, 5 for sure, maybe 10. And that's industry. So when you think of
Yeah.
collective industry, So for those listening, maybe it's the first time you've ever listened, and I'm super glad that you get to listen to Ben, is people don't really understand how a commercial vehicle is actually considered a commercial vehicle. So depending on how you register your vehicle, every province has a little different. So obviously Ontario is different than here in Alberta. It's a weight threshold. So when you actually identify, okay, what's a commercial vehicle? What am I going to do with it? A lot of people that start work for someone who said, man, I could do this a lot better. And I know what this guy's making. I want to make that kind of money.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that entire person's soul is invested into that operation. And I speak from experience. I know what it's like to acquire a business. I know what it's like to buy a truck that ended up having way too many mechanical problems, and like, but so I understand that. And that's where you start. You start a lot of these businesses. I'm a driver. I see an opportunity. I happen to get financing. Great. I got plates now.
Right.
And
Yes.
the fact that you're empowering people to grow, because I think growth is essential. Do you know who Tony Robbins is? Do you listen
Of
to him
course.
ever?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And he always compares like growth and happiness and
Yes.
pursuit and I really manifest with that, because I'm like, man, if we're stagnant, so if a business
Mhm.
owner is stagnant, trucking company is stagnant, then it gets boring. It gets
Yeah.
frustrating because you're paying
Yeah.
bills. That's what it feels like. You're literally got to pay you. Okay, I got to pay. So the
Yeah.
fact that as a company, you guys are able to see their vision, empower their vision, but then providing an opportunity for them to not work in the business, but on the business to grow it, I
Yes.
think is
Yeah.
as obviously as an insurance provider is nuts, because most people are more so like you, how you started, where I like sales and
Right.
I
Yeah.
sold 19 policies this month.
Right.
It's like, good for you. How many carriers did you impact this month? And I
Yeah.
think collectively, I can tell you have that overarching identity where no, we want to help our clients succeed. And even if you're not a client, we still want to help you succeed because we really care about the industry. And
Yeah.
I think just hats off, because I talk to enough people and I've been really fortunate with who I get to connect with. And obviously you meet some bad apples along the way where not everyone thinks like you guys do. So it's nice to hear that, because I just know our industry needs it. I know our industry,
Yes.
they need guidance. And when you're so busy, you know what it's like to be busy and you're just like,
Yes.
what am I supposed to look at today?
Chaos. Yeah.
Where's my North Star? Okay, the National
Yeah.
Truck League is. And who can I talk to? Well, I got Ben's phone number. Ben, I have a problem.
Yeah.
What do I do? And I
Yeah.
think that the perspective, man, honestly, hats off. Like I could go on for an hour about that because it's just
Well,
so powerful.
we have, even occasionally, just the other week, like an ex-client called me and just for asking for advice. And like, I love to see his name pop up on my phone because I don't care that but he asked me a question. He knew me, he trusted me. And it's just a great feeling to know that people actually do want to reach out to you if they have questions. And like, that's what riding shotgun is. It's like, we're just there for you if you want it. Right. So yeah, I think so much of the insurance industry can be numbers focused and sales focused. But I think if we take the approach that it's actually more care for the business and the people within the business itself, that the sales and the numbers and all that stuff will come in. And it just, yeah.
That's awesome. So I know you live in Ontario. So is Ontario kind of the market that you're I guess offering services in? Are you across Canada or where?
We're national. We have clients in every province, which is a cool thing to say, honestly. And I've only been to like 2 or 3 of Canada. I still have to get to Alberta, see Banff one day. We're for the licensing, insuring the trucks and the cargo and the trailers. We are licensed in Ontario and Alberta to do that. And you do have to go province by province for licensing. So I think one day we'll eventually try to get to more provinces. And then for our products that are accident and sickness related, that is national. So one of our bigger products is deductible buy down, where if a truck's deductible is 15, 20,000, 10,000, we buy it down to 2,000, just for that unexpected cost that a trucker or an owner operator could face, where not everyone has 15 grand to sit around just to pay to make a claim, let alone pay for your insurance for the rest of the year. So you only pay 2 grand and we'll fill up the rest. So that can be across the country. And that's actually one of the more higher sought after products right now, with deductibles in the industry everywhere. I've just gone up in the last year to feels like minimum is 10 everywhere, but
they try and compensate just for the increase. You can either pay a skyrocket amount of insurance, or you can allow your deductible to skyrocket instead. And then knowing that there's actual coverage and protection on that deductible, really smart business.
That's one of the products from the beginning. And that's, I can't even, I don't know what the industry was like in the 90s. Like I can't believe this was a product in the 90s, but now it's like becoming more relevant than ever. So super happy to be promoting that product, and other people around Canada do want it. They don't want to pay 15 grand out of pocket if it's someone, and sometimes it's even not at fault accidents, right? So it's just not fair. So that's what like gives me joy and like fires me up, is that we have this is just one of our many products, but that product does help truck drivers. It does help trucking companies, and it saves their bottom line. It's a business solution, and those kind of things when it all works together with helping them, but it's actually a really smart financial decision too, combined and we're providing it. That's like, it fires me up, you know?
So cool. Yeah, dude. You can see it. So anyone that's listening, you got to hop on YouTube because you can literally see it. I love it. I call that the passion moment. And I think the fact that we just have a good relationship through talking over the last, again, I think this is our third actual conversation.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that you can hit, I call them passion moments, that you can hit it. I'm just like, yes, because I think it's really cool because it's like, what do you care about? Okay, you can really tell you care about that. And it's impacting so many people because, yeah, I remember, again, when I had my outfit, and I've been involved with the industry my whole working life. And it's very interesting hearing it from different sides because I remember what it's like trying to save money, knowing that there's a floating mechanics bill, obviously, of your fuel. And then we had different deductibles and different insurances. And so you did what? Oh crap, we got to pay for that. So the knowing this, what should be 10 grand now is only 2 grand. And it's only, it does. It's just a huge peace of mind. And again, you're allowing carriers to work on the business, not in the business.
Right.
It's not
yeah. That's like what high level people at companies need to do in order to grow, is work on the business. And I think that's anyone that's a business owner in any type of industry knows that as the business owner, you always will get sucked into day-to-day things, but you really, since you have that brain, you're in the ownership position, you have the ability to give better ideas that will help grow the business. So yeah, you're right. I haven't even thought of that, but if that is what we're doing, then that makes me more excited. Funny, but this is the funny thing I just wanted to mention. You said passion. We did this exercise with our business group within the company like a couple months ago, and it was like go around and say one thing that the person does well at work and one person that the person doesn't do well at work. And literally 100% of the people said they love how passionate I am and how like intense I am. But then the negative was that sometimes it overflows, and so that's what I'm learning. If anything, in the last like year and a half, it's like I've learned to talk less and just say the important things when there's time, and not speak over people and interrupt kind of thing. So to have passion and like just to be on this podcast, I think this will probably help me with my work life, just being balanced again, because it's getting some of this out onto you and onto the Truck Focus podcast.
Yeah, man. And that's cool. I'm glad you experienced that, because I think honestly, it's one of the biggest compliments, because I don't think we need to live in autopilot. You don't need to live in fear. And passion it's a rebuke of fear, because when people live in fear, they're really reserved and I'm going to hold all my cards close to my chest. I can't show you any expression. Then on the flip side, it's no, I am here, like, hello. And again, business maturity, obviously experience and enough meetings where you're like self-reflection is key. And I think one thing, I don't know your dad personally yet, but I'd love to talk to him, is just his mentorship on your life, because again, we are who we hang out with, obviously, family and all that good stuff, where
he's the definition of that. He does not speak until it's like one sentence that everyone's like, whoa. You know? So, and those are the most impactful things, just one sentence. If you say 100 sentences, you know? So
I fight the,
you're obviously like the most passionate person. Like you're more than me.
I wouldn't say that. I think I'm one of the best compliments I've ever received from a mentor is I raise ships. So some people will try and sink others. They try and sink the ship to make themselves rise. Okay. And he says, for me, it's the opposite. He's just like, and again, I just say this all humility, but I think for yourself and the passion, it's part of it's a compliment. Part of it, I think, is just an installment of confidence where please let your light shine. And I don't think our industry, like I said before, has enough of that. That's why I keep going back to it too, because it's like, yes, we need more of this. We need more people that you're knowledgeable. You obviously understand the products, but you understand the impacts of the products. And it's not just about the dollar value. It's Are my clients succeeding? Yes.
Yeah.
Are my past
Yeah.
clients succeeding? Yes. Are they calling me for questions? Yes. That's impact.
Right.
And they can just, well, Ben's got it. And if that, another thing too that I think,
Not that I do these things. Like we have 50 amazing
right.
employees that really take on a lot of the day-to-day stuff and the client-facing stuff.
And then I
So
think
one of
that's super impactful too, just as obviously as an organization, is the fact that you can
right.
trust your team, and the
Oh,
fact that you have those boundaries and you understand. Like I was reading your not your mission statement, your core values. Sorry,
yeah.
before, in the golden rule. Did you want to
Yeah.
talk about the golden rule? Because I think that really
Golden
ties
rule.
into here too.
Yeah, golden rule is simply is just respect, and it's not necessarily about how we deal with our clients. It's also internally. So we want to have a good culture with staff working together too, right? So let alone just respect being one of the higher values that most people should be carrying in their life, whether what they're doing. The golden rule, I have a little gold bar, a fake one at the office that we put for our core values to represent it. It's about being humble and just realizing that other people also have faults, and we're not going to just flip out, and we're going to have a good reaction to people, and we're going to communicate well via email. We're not going to, and just respecting people's times. So you can't not pick up the phone if someone's trying to get a hold of you, kind of thing. That's just like, this is a professional service. And so that's also just like a standard business practice too. But
You would think.
yeah.
You would
Yeah.
think. Email me.
It's
I
no,
got you on the phone.
no. My brother is a mortgage broker, and he's like, he just says, pick up the phone. He'll never miss a call in his life. And if I'm on the phone with him, he's like, I'm getting a call, I just know to hang up. And I respect that he'll do that. But he's like the most successful at his job because he'll never miss a call. And that's what you have to do in professional service industry. You have to be there for your clients. That's just got to be the bottom line, and everything else should be value add.
Yes. And I think the fact that collectively over 50 people, you're in line with that. That is a massive freight train of success. Just let's help our industry. Like, we're here for you. I think that's super cool.
We got to get better at that too. Like we have, as an insurance broker, you don't have, well, sometimes we have ex-truck drivers that got their license and they come and they are just killer. They are so good, like they just completely get every single aspect. But some people come from like RBC, just selling life. So we just developed in the last year like an orientation package that just, they have videos of people on YouTube, like showing, there's like vloggers out there, a lot of good trucking vloggers that give you a really good taste of what their life is like. And so it's like, look at what, like having a niche of the owner operators of the trucking industry. Like if you just really try to get into their shoes, you can serve them so much better. And what I love about it is that the trucking lifestyles shoes are the most unique shoes that there are. Like they live in 100 square feet as they're driving down to Texas, hauling a 53-foot trailer full of stuff. I've had a couple of car accidents. I still think I'm a good driver, but I wouldn't ever be able to do the career, I don't think. And that's maybe where all of my respect for the drivers comes from, is that it is a crazy lifestyle that's so different. And when you watch these vlogs and when we're trying to show these people what it's like use that in your conversation. When you're talking to a client, ask them what they're hauling, ask them where they're going, just like get to know them a little bit and get their lifestyle. And once you none of the people at our company, well, other than the truck drivers, 6 truck drivers, have stayed at a truck stop before in a truck bed, and eventually it'd be cool one day for us to get a truck at the office and get people to really get into it and stuff. But I just saying this because you said it's good they have 50 people working in the same direction. But yeah, we do want to embed into people what this is really like, and they should be just as passionate as I am about serving this one type of customer. And sometimes you hear some phone calls when you're walking through the office and they're having such a good conversation with this a driver, or they're making a claim and they're nervous and someone's on the phone putting them at rest. It's just yes, this is what that's our product. We're here to pay claims, but when you're making it relatable and we're talking about their downtime coverage, if their truck is currently down and they need to go to a hotel and we'll pay for their hotel, what a rich conversation. That's just about just looking after them.
Yes. Well, you're leading with empathy, and you're
yes.
really taking on what they're going through. And I think being in moments of crisis, if it's in your own personal vehicle, commercial vehicle,
right,
having being afraid to call, and all of a sudden it's a soft, empathetic voice, and
Mm,
it's not a yell. You're kind of like, okay, I'm going to confess everything now. Like
yeah.
I need
Yeah.
help. And just
Yes.
knowing that there's no embarrassment, there's no shame, there's no judgment. It's just, yeah, we got this and we're going to pay for this. And don't worry. I think, again,
Right.
that's overarching. That's a huge part of your business where it's missing in industry. And
Right.
I can honestly talk about anything you say. I'm like, yeah, it's missing in industry. We need that. That needs to be like an adapted practice, because far too often, and I've been guilty for myself, I react instead of I listen and then I respond.
Mm, mm.
And it's like, okay, what are they going through? And it could
Yeah.
honestly, it could be an operational problem. The customer's not here. Where do you want me to drop this trailer? I don't know. You figure it out, instead of, hold on,
Right.
let me call the customer and I'll find out for you. Like, I
Yeah.
think there's just more as an industry that we need to work together as like collective parties,
Yeah.
where good job that you're able to see that in your team too and feel that and celebrate it. Because
Yeah.
again, I know too many people that would just say, oh, okay, and then carry on and not actually acknowledge that, hey, that's really good work. Like, that's a really
Right.
good call. Like, really, really well done, because
Yeah.
your team, they're human too. And I think the
Yeah.
human element's often missed too, where again, that's one of my next questions I wanted to ask is, have you always valued people? Because I think from what I know, what you've shared with a little bit about your dad, about yourself, you really care about people. And I think that's also a really important factor to your success.
Yeah. I guess. I mean, I've grown up a lot. So I would say I think this is pretty common. The first 18 years of my life, I definitely was just getting by and was just a kid kind of thing. And so I'm 27 now, and even like early 20s, I probably still wasn't as mature or whatever. Not saying I'm mature now. I still like pride myself on being a little mature, but yeah, I come from a Christian background. You know that, Josh.
Yes.
And that is solely around love and care. And so that's definitely where it's probably rooted from. But yeah, I do have every person is so different. And my wife always said, but I just have a crazy amount of loyalty to the people that I have. And I really care that about a very small amount of people in my life. Like I have a pretty small friend group. But then I have just a couple things in my life, and one of them is work too with the trucking industry. So like it's not even that I have care. It's like I'm thankful that I have an opportunity to have a category of people that I can care for because I have this passion inside of me. And I don't, if it wasn't trucking, it probably would have been directed somewhere else like this. But I do I do think humans together that are here for a positive impact and for love and for care for each other can move mountains. And I think when humans are the complete opposite and we're divided and it's just the worst thing. I hate it. So if I can be the guy that's not leading the division or the negativity in the world, that would mean a lot to me. And I don't want to. I definitely have negative days, but I try to put things in my life that can make sure I'm usually trying to be a positive person and just making sure that I'm giving it my all. And I think whatever my all is, it's always going to come down. And I'm working in sales. I became so customer focused eventually, where it was like nothing. You're talking about the humans of the staff of NTL. I definitely was a point where it's like you prioritize the client, like the truck, the owner operator over my fellow staff member. And that's just kind of a business mindset too, but customer comes first. Like these are the people we work for. These are the people that also like make our business run. So bottom line, like they get all of our respect. They get all of our attention. And that's just kind of been instilled with me. And I don't know why that necessarily is, but I definitely have surrounded myself with people in my life that are the same mindset. And I bet you have too. And you pick up things from different mentors that will, write a daily journal, do a gratitude journal, do something that puts your life in perspective.
Yes.
And so if you write down one day, you said, I'm thankful for heat in my house. Like it just changes your mindset for the day. With someone, I go to work and someone's had like their basement is flooded, and it's just like, wow, like, so yeah, I don't know. I don't even know where I'm going with that.
Yeah,
It's
that's
an interesting
huge.
question, but
Yeah. No, I think that was rock solid because I like the fact that you're deliberate with who you associate with. You're deliberate with who you allow to influence you. And I think that's a really key piece of just leadership as a whole. And I'm reading it's an old book, but it's called Think and Grow Rich by
Oh
Napoleon
yeah.
Hill right now.
Yeah.
And yeah, he talks about just the your strategic alliances. And I think I was 19 when I first took my first like life coaching course, and that was a huge eye opener to me. Is if you're suffering, you're not normally like suffering because you're actually suffering. Like illness is different. There's different things, but just you live your day to day and you feel like you're suffering. It's like, okay, well, why is that? And then if you look around who you're actually associating with, you're like, okay, duh. Like, so it makes sense, but you have to be deliberate and protective. And my wife and I, we live in that space too. We're really mindful of like who we spend time with, who we would even associate with, because when you think about your free time, I don't have very much free time, and I love working. I love the industry that I serve. I love being a dad. I love being a husband. So I'm like, why would I allow someone that's going to weigh me down or bring me down be any part of my life? Yeah, honestly, like an arm's distance. Like it's just, I think that's important.
I don't even know where I've heard it, but it's definitely famous now. But it's just it's definitely out of a book. I can't remember at all at this point. But it's like, people, if you hang out with people, the 5 people around you is basically like who you are. And there's like studies that have been done where if the average income of your 4 friends is higher, like most likely your income eventually gets to that as well. And not that that's the only focus here, but it's like there's tangible, real life things that happen around you when you hang your. And so if I ever see somebody, you have that connection with, or they're super wise, or they just have that knowledge bomb they drop. It's like, you got to pay attention to those and like connect with that person. And those people most likely are more than happy to talk to you and like coach you. And everybody in the world needs coaching from anybody, no matter who you are. 100%. And as I'm a younger person too, like I'm just more than happy to humbly like accept people's life experiences. And like, even up to my grandfather, who I'm going to call this afternoon. He has so much wisdom. I cling on to things he says because he's just like a brilliant person. And like, that's just what you got to stay away from the things that can make your mindset in a negative way and keep you stagnant. And you are one of these people, you can see you're always going this way because you did this earlier. And like everyone hates this. So when you're always looking up, trying to do other things, it's always making your life more exciting. And there can be moments when you finally make it to a goal that you had. And then you're like, I've had moments where you hit a goal and then you're like, okay, now what? And it's kind of an empty feeling, but all of us will eventually find the passion again and figure a new goal to set. And I was actually just listening to this podcast yesterday, and some guy was saying how for the last year, he measured his whole life his whole year by work, family, life, and he rated himself every day on a scale of 1 to 10. And he said he calculated he said he had 12 bad days in 2021. Yeah.
Wow.
And he defined it as 6 to 10 was hopeful. So like if you're at 6, you could have been a low day, but like it's still technically you have a chance to like find that goal to work for again. So yeah, that was fascinating to me. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, oh man, there's so many ways that I'll go, but I'm mindful of time is the fact, like, I love that. So do you know, I say his last name wrong, but Simon Sinek, start with Y. Yeah. Okay. So he will talk science on goals. And then there's a gentleman named Tim Ferriss. Have you heard of him before?
I know Tim Ferriss.
Yeah. So the 4-hour work week, where he'll talk about basically identifying, you're not only working 4 hours in a week, but you're identifying the most important things you have to get done that week.
Right.
And nothing else matters. So when you take both approaches, so like, I'm not going to actually show you my notebook, but I probably have 56 things this weekend that are just little boxes with a note about that. Yeah. And the reason why I do that is some of them are small, some of them are big, some of them will get done in 5 minutes. Some it's part of a year plan. You go to the Simon's advice and he's like, it's literally a dopamine rush. Anytime you check a box, it's a dopamine rush. Anytime your cell phone, bing, bing. Yeah. And I think when you can live in a state of deliberate progress instead of like, I don't like floating. I don't like just
Right.
kind of aimlessly working. Like, I did nothing productive today. Yay. Like, sure, you need recovery, but I think it's really important whenever we have the option to choose, no, I'm going to try and take some steps forward every day.
Mhm,
You
mhm.
take those steps. And again, that's not my way. I'm a parrot. I love listening to people and then I'll just kind of shoot it out. But being in that state of mind, and again, this is maybe a little more deep than I initially thought we were going to go, but I love it. So really, it's a call to action though for those listening: is take Ben's advice, take this advice, because goal setting is not just January, and progress doesn't just have to be the first 14 days of a new year. Like, you
Right.
literally can have calculated steps every single day. Where, okay, at December 31st, what do I want to celebrate? If you want to do it over 365, and you just work backwards. And you create a
Right.
roadmap, and every day you're checking, okay, who am I hanging out with? Are they helping me? Am I helping them? No. Okay, well, maybe it's time to say, hey, you know what, let's mutually part ways. And that
Yeah.
could be business, that could be as an independent owner operator where you want cheaper insurance rates.
Right.
Stop getting speeding tickets.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Start completing a pre-trip inspection on your tractor and on your
Right.
trailer, so that way you can confidently cross the scale. Make
Yeah.
friends with guys like Ben who can actually answer your questions. Like, those are all real practical goals where it's not hard. Like,
Yeah.
it's just shifting the paradigms a little bit and having, I guess, raising your standard, as Tony Robbins likes to say too. So, but yeah, collectively, I think just what you're doing, Ben, is it's just so powerful. And like, I literally got dizzy there. I was like, okay, stop, because you can speak on things with a humility approach, and I like that you're humble, because far too often, again, people, it's me, it's me, it's me, and it's like, I haven't really actually heard you say that. It's always we and I, or my grandfather, or my dad, or I'm really compassionate about here. So I think just your mission, Ben, is super cool. And normally towards this part of our conversation, I would talk about legacy, but I honestly think throughout our entire conversation, we hit legacy, we hit passion, we talked about impact. So I don't think we really need to dive too much in there, but I want to flip the question around: is what advice would you share? Someone's listening to this, they're feeling jacked. Maybe they're going to go to the gym after because they're buzzing. They don't know why. What's one thing that, if we're speaking to owner operators, we're speaking to fleets, we're speaking to professional drivers, when we're talking about, they want to make an impact, they want to do something just a little better every day. Do you have any? I'm just going to put you on the spot, so you're welcome. But do you have any advice, just one piece or 10, doesn't matter, that you want to share with them, just to encourage them in that?
Um. Okay. Yeah. So if you're young, and the thing that helped me be what I am in my job is that I know I'm going to be in the trucking industry for until I die. You know, like I'm I'm fully committed, and I have no other idea that I would ever try to pursue. So that definitely helps me with my laser focus. But if you're young, you have to be a humble learner, and um, that's kind of what I'm just trying. I have knowledge now, and do try to make points when they're applicable, but I'm still 27. And when I started working at NT, I was 21. So people just thought it was almost funny that I was working full time. And that never bothered me. And I definitely couldn't give it back to them and say, well, you're old. But um, I try, if I would, so especially when I was younger, like 21, I wouldn't talk as much in the back of a meeting, and I would try to there's other people that have been in the insurance industry. Just recognize who you are and what you're doing, and learn from the people that have been licensed for 30 years and selling it, or someone that was an ex truck driver that now got an insurance license. Like, just, I don't like to brag about being humble, because that's the least humble thing you do, but I do try to just be as humble as I can and just ask I usually preface a lot of my questions with, like, this might be the stupidest thing in the world, but like, I really need to ask low level questions in order for it to stick in my brain. Just like if you're going over like accounting classes or just something to do with accounting, I don't accounts receivable, accounts payable. It's like, just say money in, money out kind of thing. Just make it simpler for me. And I always get what I want. If I say, this is so stupid, but they always explain, they don't say it's not stupid. And then, yeah, I still think everyone at work would say I'd hope they respect me, but they also recognize that I'm young and I do love to have fun, and I'm like still kind of immature. I like to laugh at work and be goofy. But just recognizing who you are, being humble, trying to learn, and just you're like you're watering what you're going to be in the future. I think, I don't know if this was on the podcast, but when we were talking before, Josh was mentioning how just like I'm about to hit the more peak of my career, like the real time to start going for it. And I think what I'm doing now, I'm just trying to like get ready for that stage of my life. And then so there's like a combo that I'm so excited for, where I can try to create my own person, who I am within the industry, and how people perceive me in the trucking industry. And I get to follow my dad as well, who I get like the double benefit there, where it just like gets me so excited to be like 50 years old and just like going to trucking offices and just like high-fiving people. But at the same, I don't want to wish my life away as well. So yeah, I think there's something to be said. Like if I went to a trucking office cold, I'm gonna get a different reaction than if there was a guy with like gray hair in a suit, you know, like there is that moment and like I recognize that. But there are also young leaders in the industry, such as yourself, such as other people we've mentioned, and they are just as passionate as you and I are. And like it's no big deal to connect with them. And we connect in different ways now. We connect on LinkedIn or like Instagram or whatever we do as younger people. And for me to meet you and like just do this, I'm benefiting off of it just from my brain. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I hit one point there.
Yeah,
but.
it was awesome. Yeah, so something I think is really cool about your dad too is anytime you talk about your dad or you talk about family, I think of two things. I think of a hand helping, and then I think of two hands pushing. And I think you're really fortunate in a good way, as well as industry is really fortunate, because you're going to have, for however much time that is, you're always going to have someone that says, hey Ben, I'm going to help you. Hey Ben, I'm going to help you. And then you're going to hit something called a terror barrier, where most people can hit a terror barrier where it's basically, I'm going to go do this, and then boop, something pops up and it's every reason in their mind why they can't. And then most people unfortunately say, yeah, you're right, I can't. They get tricked by their own brain. Other people say, no, screw that, I'm going to jump through it. Okay, once you jump through it, that's where that helping hand is. But at the same time, that's where you need that push. You need to hear the thoughts of your grandfather. You need to hear the advice of industry saying, no, we need someone to speak on this. Like I remember I spoke at a safety conference when in Alberta, safety fitness certificates changed about 2 and a bit years ago. And so I spoke at a safety conference. Don't remember how many people. It was just under 100 people, and they were all owners or managers of different companies related to trucking. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. And then I'm like, no, people need to know this is going to impact your business. And again, my mentors were in my brain pushing me at the same time they're pulling. So I think, again, industry that's listening, people that are listening, businesses, people that want to just get a promotion in their job, don't be afraid and allow those people that actually care about you as a person. I'm going to help you and I'm going to push you at the same time. I think it's just really important. So you totally nailed it on the head though, dude. It was awesome. I appreciate it.
What if you didn't do that speak? Like if you didn't speak to all those people, like that would have been that would have sucked for them. They would have missed out. You probably would have lost connections. You definitely got to push through. And like that, there's some things that I still do in my life, like in work, that make me feel uncomfortable. And I get sweaty and like my face gets wet and everything. And I'm just like, oh, this is uncomfortable. But once you're done that task, it's like, you know what you were scared of and you just accomplished it. And you're just like, yes. And you give the power to do so many more things. So great point.
No, dude, this was, I feel empowered and I appreciate that. I like people that can speak truthfully and I feel invested. So thank you, honestly, just for the truth, but the passion. it's really noticeable and I love it. I think it's so needed. So just being a light in a dark place, dude, and definitely keep it up. So just as we kind of come to an end, give us a recap again of where people can go from a website perspective to visit National Truck League, but also if you're comfortable, name drop just on LinkedIn, like can people reach you out on LinkedIn or on Facebook or anything like that?
Sure. Yeah. I'll preface with that our website is about to get a massive revamp within like 20 days here. So it's pretty outdated right now. I'm almost finished the new one and it looks so good and I'm excited, but we are just simply www.nationaltruckleague.com or ntl.ca. We are on all the social media channels of Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn, and our @ handle is NTL Insurance. My name is Ben Stiller. That's what it's on LinkedIn. You can definitely message me. Josh messaged me one time. That's how this all started. And yeah, I think if you ever wanted to just message me and just chat about it, even if you're in BC or if you're in Nova Scotia, I love meeting people around the industry. And Josh, you've inspired me like so much to just chat more with people. Just the simple conversation. You're right. It feels amazing. And I hope people that listen to it can feel like inspired to, accomplish some things in the trucking industry and make that weird leap of faith that's going to make them sweat. And maybe that's getting their own authorities and getting their own insurance policy and managing all the finances of your truck. But yeah, we at National Truck League we just want to be known as people that care about you. We don't want to be known as, people that are just trying to sell policies. We care truly about the safety and success of the transportation industry. And I hope that people will recognize that and know that for all the years to come, that we will be involved in the industry.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, and I'll make sure to include your website and all the details in the show notes. Absolutely. So honestly, Ben, this interview's probably been one of my favorites. I won't lie.
Wow.
Yeah, dude. I was like,
dude, that one says, come on.
Legit, 100%. Yeah.
You put out like content like crazy, so that's a big compliment.
So yeah, no, you lived up to my expectation. I set the bar high. No, I'm just kidding. But this was awesome. And I just want to encourage you, honestly, man, just keep doing it, keep rocking out. Don't be afraid to be immature, because I think way too often we take ourselves way too seriously. And I'm like, I haven't laughed yet this month. Like, what's wrong with me? So being in that state, our industry needs it. People in our industry need it. A lot of our industry, as we know, we have challenges coming up in a week. We've been going through stuff for almost 2 years. Like, there's a lot of reasons for people to be down. And I think just what we're doing, shout out to Market Truck Company, because that energy, man, we need it. We need people to see things a little differently and not be afraid to speak it. So just, again, keep doing what you're doing. This was, honestly, a great conversation though. And I know people that listen had a lot of value, because it's just, it was really good. So I appreciate you hopping on, buddy. This was awesome.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks again for just having me.
Totally, man. Okay. Have a great day.
You too.
Ben, buddy, thank you so much for hopping on the podcast today and just all the value that you shared in our conversation. I really respect just how much you care about the success of others in your industry, as well as how much you and your company really value people. I also respect the fact that your core value is talking about riding a shotgun, as you put forth the required energy and attention to really understand what your clients are going through. So if you're listening to this, I really encourage you to connect with Ben, connect with him on LinkedIn directly, but also visit ntl.ca and consider doing business with them. So Ben, thank you so much again. I just really appreciate your time. So if this is the first time you've ever hopped on a Truck Focus podcast, I really welcome you to our community. And I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to listen. Same to our dedicated listeners that show up week after week, checking out our content. We do really appreciate it, as I really appreciate just the fact that Ben came to the podcast and I could introduce him to you, and you could really just understand how passionate he is about the industry and those that he serves. So again, if this is the first time you're here, welcome. I do ask that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, you subscribe to the podcast channel that you're listening to, and that you like this episode, share it out. Let other people know that there's some really impactful people like Ben out there making a huge difference just in the lives of so many people. And I'm just really excited to see where he goes in his journey. So again, thank you so much. As always, let's create a pivotal impact. Bye.